Clearly he remembered his late martial brother's death wish. That no one from Quanzhen allowed learning anything from the manual. Who would have thought that in order to teach Gojing he had to recite the text every day? His hands moved to give a clearer explanation. Unexpectedly the manual was ingrained in his mind. Even in his sleep he would dream about the manual. So unconsciously he cultivated his energy based on the text. Basically his martial art was already high. His understanding of martial arts theory was also profound, plus the 9-yin manual was created based on Taoist principle, which he had already learned all his life. Unwittingly the manual was interlinked with his own basic knowledge. He did not want to learn the martial art, but it was the martial art which came to him. He vented off his frustration by shouting loudly, "Bad! It's really bad! This is called once the ghost inhabits your body, you cannot drive it out." I wanted to play a big joke on Brother Go, who knew that by smashing a big rock the debris hurts your own foot. He was depressed for half a day and kept knocking his own head. Afterward an idea came to his mind. He peeled off some tree bark and made a rope. Then with his teeth he tied his own hands. Muttering loudly, "From now on, if I cannot forget the manual completely, I must not resort to violence toward anybody. Even if the old heretic Huang chases me, I cannot fight him. So that I won't disobey my martial brother's death wish. Old urchin, you reap what you sow." Of course Huang Yaoshi could not guess the reason. He only knew the old urchin was naughty and weird, so he simply said, "Old urchin, this is Brother Aoyang, which I believe you have met." This is before he could finish. Zuba Tong had walked around them all, sniffing here and there. And then he laughed. "This must be the old beggar Hong Shigong. I know. He is a good man. Heaven's nets do not miss. My stinky urine only drenched 2 people, the Eastern heretic and Western poison. Aoyang Feng, that time you fought with me, this time I soaked you with my urine. We are even now. Nobody suffers any loss." Aoyang Feng merely smiled but did not say anything. He came close to Huang Yaoshi and whispered in his ear, "Yao Zhong, this man's martial art is amazing. Has already surpassed both you and me. I think it best not to provoke him." Huang Yaoshi thought, "We haven't seen each other for 20 years, how would you know my martial art is inferior to his?" To Zuba Tong he said, "Batong, I have asked you over and over, I want to burn the 9-yin manual as a sacrifice in front of my late wife's memorial. As soon as you hand it down to me, I am going to let you go. Where do you think you are going now?" "I am tired of living on this island," Zuba Tong said. "I am going outside to take a stroll." "Then where's the manual?" Huang Yaoshi held out his hand. "I have given that to you earlier," Zuba Tong said. "Don't talk nonsense," Huang Yaoshi said. "When did you give that to me?" Zuba Tong smiled. "Gojing is your son-in-law, is he not? Then he belongs to you, does he not? I have passed on the 9-yin manual from top to bottom to him. Isn't that the same as giving the manual to you?" Gojing was surprised. Panicky he called out, "Big brother, this you taught me the 9-yin manual?" Zuba Tong burst out in laughter. "So you think it was a fake?" Gojing was dumbstruck. He looked like a fool. Zuba Tong was so happy. It was exactly for this moment that he was willing to spend innumerable effort to get Gojing memorizing the 9-yin manual. He wanted to see Gojing's expression when he found out that he did learn the 9-yin manual in spite of his refusal. Now that his goal was achieved, how could Zuba Tong be not happy as he was crazy? The first volume is always in your hands, but where did you get the second volume from? Huang Yaoshi asked. "Didn't your good son-in-law deliver it personally to me?" Zuba Tong smiled mischievously. I did not." Gojing was taken aback. Huang Yaoshi was really indignant, he thought. "This kid Gojing dares to deceive me. That poor blind Mai Chao Feng is still desperately looking for that book." He shot an angry glare toward Gojing, but then turned his head toward Zuba Tong. "I want the original manual." "Brother," Zuba Tong called Gojing, "help me take the book from my pocket." Go Jing stepped forward and groping inside Zubatong's pocket he took a book about half an inch thick. Zubatong held out his hand to receive the book, and said to Huang Yaoshi, "This is the first volume manual, the second volume is folded inside it. If you have a skill, come and get it." "What kind of skill are you talking about?" Huang Yaoshi asked. Zubatong held the book tight in his hands. He leaned his head and said, "Wait, let me think." Half a day later he smiled and said, "Pasting skill." "What?" Huang Yaoshi was puzzled. Zubatong lifted up his hands high in the air, and soon the book turned into a million pieces. A flurry of paper pieces flew from his hands like a flock of butterflies flying in all directions, carried by the sea breeze, floating to the east and scattered to the west. It was impossible to track them down. Huang Yaoshi was startled and angry at the same time, surprised that his internal energy was so profound. In that short period of time the book is completely gone. Remembering his late wife, Huang Yaoshi felt a stab of pain in his heart. "Old urchin, you played the trick on me. Don't ever think of leaving this island alive," he shouted angrily. Flying forward his palm got very close to Zubatong's face. Zubatong moved his body a little bit, like a pendulum he swung to the left and to the right. With a swish, swish sound Huang Yaoshi's palms danced in the air, very close to Zubatong's body, but were not able to touch him at all. It was Huang Yaoshi's specialty, the fallen flower divine sword palm. Who would have thought that after about 20 stances the palm technique was useless against Zubatong? Huang Yaoshi was puzzled because Zubatong did not launch any counterattack at all, while he had used all his strength to compel Zubatong to withstand his attack. Suddenly he was alarmed. Huang Yaoshi, how could I fight someone who has both his hands tied up like that?" Leaping back 3 steps he called out, "Old urchin, your legs are healed. I have done something inappropriate to you. Quickly break the rope on your hands. Let me fight your 9-yin manual martial art." Zubatong looked dismayed. Repeatedly he shook his head. "I don't want to lie to you, but I have my own difficulty. This rope in my hand, whatever happens I can't take it out." "Then let me take it out for you," Huang Yaoshi said. Immediately moved forward to touch his hands. "Ayo, help, somebody help me." Zubatong cried out and rolled around on the ground. Go Jing was shocked. "Father-in-law," he called out. He was about to dash forward to block Huang Yaoshi when Hong Shigong held him back. "Don't act foolishly," he hissed. Go Jing halted and looked. Zubatong was rolling around on the ground. He was very agile. Huang Yaoshi grabbed and kicked but was unable to even touch his body. "Look closely to how his body moves," Hong Shigong whispered. Only then did Go Jing realize that Zubatong was moving according to the snake slithers, wild cat flips from the 9-yin manual. He watched with a rapt attention. Every time he saw an exquisite move he would cheer, "Good." Huang Yaoshi was getting angrier. His hands flew everywhere, resembling a hatchet or a knife, hacking all over the place. Zubatong's long sleeve and part of his robe have been cut by the strength of Huang Yaoshi's hand. A moment later his long beard and long hair were also cut. Although he was not injured, Zubatong knew that if the fight was prolonged he might not be as lucky. Perhaps half a move later he would be dead or at least heavily injured. At that moment Huang Yaoshi's left hand was sweeping horizontally, while his right hand slashing down diagonally. Each palm contained 3 deathly variations within. Zubatong knew that no matter how quick he could move, it would be difficult to avoid this attack. He had no other choice but exerting his strength to both hands, breaking the rope. As soon as his hands were free, his left hand parried the attack, while his right hand went to his own back and scratched. "Ayo. The itch is unbearable," he said. Huang Yaoshi was secretly alarmed when he saw Zubatong could act so casually, even to the point of playful, while they were fighting ferociously. Huang Yaoshi sent out 3 more fierce stances. All 3 were his best ones. "With one hand I can't fight you," Zubatong said. But I can't help it. No matter what, I can't let my martial brother down. He put all his strength in his right hand and parried the attack, while his left hand hung loosely on his side. His strength was still inferior to Huang Yaoshi's pure internal energy. So as soon as two hands collided, Zubatong was shaken. He staggered and pushed a few steps back. Huang Yaoshi flew forward with both palms surrounding Zubatong's body. Use both your hands. With one hand you are not my match, he called out. I can't, said Zubatong, I have to use only one hand. Huang Yaoshi was indignant. All right then, try this. Both of his palms struck forward with full strength. A loud bang was heard and Zubatong fell down to the ground. He sat still with both his eyes closed. Huang Yaoshi held his hands, only to see Zubatong coughed and spurted blood from his mouth. His face was paper white. Everybody felt strange. If he really fought with Huang Yaoshi, even if he couldn't win, certainly he wouldn't suffer so badly. Why did he insist on using only one hand? Zubatong stood up slowly and said, the old urchin has suffered the consequences of his own action. I had no intention, but had unexpectedly learned the martial arts from the 9-yin manual. Hence violated my martial brother's death wish. If I used both of my hands, old heretic Huang, you are not my match. Huang Yaoshi was aware that what he said was the truth. He was silent. He realized he had no reason to imprison Zubatong for 15 years on the island. He also had no reason to injure him just now. He took a jade box from his pocket, opened it and produced 3 blood-like scarlet pills. He gave the pills to Zubatong and said, Batong, I am afraid there is no medicine under the heaven can surpass these Peach Blossom Island's red pills. Take one right now, and then take the next 2 7 days apart. Your internal injury won't be a problem anymore. Let me take you out of this island. Zubatong nodded, took the medicines and swallowed one. Circulating his breath for a while he vomited some contusion blood. He said, Old heretic Huang, your red pill is very effective. No wonder you are called Yaoshi. Eek. Strange. Very strange. My name is Batong, I wonder what that means? After pondering that question for half a day he shook his head and said, Old heretic Huang, I must go now. Are you or aren't you going to let me go? I do not dare, Huang Yaoshi replied, it's up to you to stay or to go. Batong Zhong, after today if you ever have a desire to come here, I will welcome you wholeheartedly. Right now let me walk you to the boat which will take you back to the mainland. Go Jing squatted down to pick Zubatong up and carried him on his back. Then he followed Huang Yaoshi walked to the seashore. Arriving at the marina he saw about 6, 7 boats, big and small. Yao Zhong, Ouyang Feng said, you don't need to send a boat to take big brother Zhu home. He can ride on little brother's boat. In that case do what Feng Zhong's heart desires, Huang Yaoshi said. He made a hand signal to a deaf and mute servant and that servant went into a big boat nearby. When he reappeared he had a tray full of gold coins. Batong, Huang Yaoshi said, take this money and use it to play around. Your martial art is better than old heretic Huang's. I admire you very much. Zubatong's eyes shone with a mischievous look on his face. He looked toward Ouyang Feng's big boat and saw a white flag on the bow. On the flag was embroidered a strange-looking snake, with 2 heads and their mouth open wide showing 4 tongues on it. He was not happy at all. Ouyang Feng took a wooden whistle from his pocket, blew some notes. And before long there came a strange noise from the forest ahead. 2 Peach Blossom Island servants led some white Camel Mountain snake shepherds came out from the forest, followed by row after row of snakes slithered on the plank and went into the boat's hold. I am not riding on Western Poison's boat. Zubatong cried out, I am scared of snakes. Huang Yaoshi smiled faintly, that is all right too. You can ride on that boat. He pointed to a boat nearby. Zubatong shook his head. No! I don't want that boat, I want that big boat. Huang Yaoshi's face changed a little bit. Batong, that ship is broken. It is not fixed yet. You can't have it. Everybody could see that the boat's tail was tall. The hull was painted blue and gold, very beautiful. It looked new and strong. Why did he say it was broken? Why can't I ride on that boat? Zubatong asked. Old heretic Huang, how come you are so stingy? This is a most ill-fated boat, that's why it is always anchored here, Huang Yaoshi explained. Since when am I stingy? If you don't believe me, I'll have the boat burned down for you to see. Making some hand signals for deaf and mute servants lighted some torch and rushed to the boat to burn it down. Suddenly Zubatong sat on the ground, flailing his hands and feet, pulling his hair and beard and bawling loudly. Seeing him acting like that, everybody was startled. Gojing was the only one who knew his temper. He was fascinated. Zubatong pulled his beard and rolling around on the ground, I want to ride the new boat, I want to ride the new boat. Huang Rong quickly moved forward to stop the four servants. Hong Shigong smiled. Yao Zhong, he said, for all my life the old beggar has been ill-fated. Let me accompany the old urchin riding this ill-fated boat. We can use poison to combat poison. Let us see whether the old beggar's unlucky or wins, or your ill-fated boat prevails. Shi Zhong, I thought you were going to stay on the island for several days, Huang Yaoshi said. Why such a hurry to leave? The world's big beggars, medium-sized beggars, and little beggars, within a few days will gather together at Yueyang, in Hunan province. They will look up to the old beggar to appoint a new leader. If the old beggar meets a calamity and has to return to heaven before first appointed a successor, who would lead the world's beggars? Therefore, the old beggar has to go, whether he wants it or not. Your brother truly appreciates Yao Zhong's generosity. Whenever your daughter and son-in-law get married, I will come back to disturb the wedding. Huang Yaoshi sighed. Shi Zhong, you are truly an ardent man. You dedicate your life toiling for others, like a horse that never stops galloping everywhere. Hong Shigong laughed. The old beggar never ride a horse. My feet can't be compared to a horse's hoof. Ayo. Something's wrong. You are indirectly scolding me, saying that my feet are hooves. Won't that mean you are saying I am a horse? Huang Rong laughed. Shifu, you said it yourself. My father never scolded you. Of course, Shifu will always inferior to father, Hong Shigong said. Just you watch, I am going to take a mistress old beggar, then we will have a baby girl beggar for you to look after. Huang Rong clapped her hands. That's great. I will have a little beggar as my martial sister to play with. Won't that be fun? Aoyanke stole a glance toward her. Under the bright sunlight she looked so beautiful, her cheeks pink like a spring flower, colorful as rose-colored clouds at dawn. He couldn't help but feel crazy for her. However, from her his thought went to Gojing. His pulse quickened, knowing she had her eyes only for Gojing. His anger rose. He swore in his heart, there will come a day when I will kill this stinky kid. Hong Shigong held out his hand to help Zubatong. He said, Batong, I will accompany you riding this new boat. Old heretic Huang is so weird, we two boys better not mind him at all. Zubatong was delighted. Old beggar, you are a very kind man, what do you say we become sworn brothers? Hong Shigong had not answered when Gojing interrupted. Big brother Zhu, you and I have become sworn brothers, so how could you take my master as your sworn brother also? Zubatong laughed. What's the problem? If your father-in-law is kind enough and lets me ride on this new boat, when my heart is happy I might take him as my sworn brother as well. What about me? Huang Rong laughed. Zubatong squinted his eyes. I am not too keen to take a baby doll. If I look at pretty women too much, they turn into trash. Taking Hong Shigong's arm he walked to the boat. Quickly Huang Yaoshi blocked their way, stretching both arms and said, Old Huang does not dare to take advantage of others. Riding this boat will bring more harm than good. Gentlemen, you don't need to prove your courage, it has been well known on the Central Plains. Hong Shigong laughed heartily, you have repeatedly warned us. Even if the old beggar returns to heaven due to seasickness, I will still appreciate Yao Zhang's friendship." Although he said those things jokingly, in his heart he was quite wary, seeing Huang Yaoshi had twice tried to stop them from boarding the boat. He knew something was wrong with that boat, but Zhu Batong was insistent on coming aboard. He saw with his own eyes how stubborn Zhu Batong was. If something really went wrong, Zhu Batong could not possibly face the danger alone, with his internal injury and all. That was the reason he made up his mind to come with Zhu Batong. Huang Yaoshi made a hang sound and said, "You two gentlemen are experts in the martial art. I am sure you would be able to turn bad luck into good. This old Huang here worries too much. You, the boy surnamed Go, you are going with them." Go Jing was startled. When he became Huang Yaoshi's son-in-law he was called Jinger, but now suddenly Huang Yaoshi changed the way he called him. Moreover, his expression was so stern. Looking at Huang Yaoshi he said, "Father-in-law, who's your father-in-law?" Huang Yaoshi cut him off with a harsh voice, "You are a greedy lying boy. If you ever tread your foot on the Peach Blossom Island again even for half a step, don't blame the old Huang for being ruthless." Reaching backward he grabbed a servant's collar, shouted, "This is your example." The deaf and mute servant's tongue was cut early on, so only a low and deep kneeing was heard from his throat. His body flew to the sea. His internal organs were crushed by Huang Yaoshi's palm. He dropped to the sea and in an instant disappeared among the waves without any trace. The other deaf and mute servants were terribly terrified. They all knelt down at once. All of them were originally criminals. Huang Yaoshi had investigated their background carefully before capturing them one by one and took them to the island. Cut their tongues and pierced their ears, making them his slaves. He once said, "The old Huang is not a gentleman. Jianghu people call me the Eastern heretic. Naturally I don't like any gentlemen as my companions. I prefer wicked people to be my servants. The more wicked they are, the more I like them." That one servant, although he deserved to be condemned, struck by his palm and thrown out to the sea without any reason, had shaken everybody's heart. They could not help but sigh inwardly, "The old heretic Huang is really wicked." Go Jing was scared. He also knelt down on the ground. "What did he do to offend you?" Hong Shigong asked. Huang Yaoshi did not answer his question. Instead, sternly he asked Go Jing, "Did you or did you not give the second volume of the 9-yin manual to Zhu Batong?" "I did give something to Big Brother Zhu, but I really did not know if it was the manual," Go Jing said. "If I knew, what do you mean you didn't know?" Zhu Batong interrupted. He was always ignorant of what was serious and what was not. The more he saw other people upset, the more he wanted to play practical jokes on them. Without waiting for Go Jing to explain he said, "You said it yourself that you took that manual from my Chao Feng. Said you were lucky the old man Huang Yaoshi didn't know. You also said that after you master the manual, you will become #1 expert of martial art in the world." Go Jing was stupefied. "Big brother, when did I say that?" he said with a trembling voice. Zhu Batong's eyes glittered. With a stern voice he said, "You certainly have said that." The fact that Go Jing was able to recite the book was well known to those present. Whether he knew it was the 9-yin manual or not, nobody cared. Now that Zhu Batong had confirmed it, Huang Yaoshi was very, very angry. Why would he think Zhu Batong was only joking? He forgot that Zhu Batong was childish and always liked to crack a joke, while Go Jing was naive and unable to tell lies. He was so wild with rage that he was afraid he would rip Go Jing apart, thus smearing his own reputation. So he raised his hand in respect of Zhu Batong, Hong Shigong and Awang Feng, saying, "Please." Pulling along Huang Rong's hand he turned around and walked away. Huang Rong still wanted to have a few words with Go Jing. "Brother Jing," she called. But she was pulled by her father, and in a blink of an eye they have traveled dozens of feet away, disappearing into the forest. Zhu Batong burst out in laughter, but stopped abruptly because his chest hurt. Finally he chuckled and said, "The old heretic Huang has fallen into my trap." I spoke nonsense to deceive him and he took it seriously. Amusing, amusing. Hong Shigong was taken aback. Then Jinger really didn't know beforehand? He asked. Zubatong laughed. Of course he didn't know. He thought the 9 yin martial arts are evil. If he knew, he wouldn't want to learn with me. Brother, you have memorized the manual really well, didn't you? Even if you want to forget it, you can't, can you? He held his stomach and burst out into laughter again. Didn't care if it hurt his chest. So his expression was really awkward. Hong Shigong stomped his foot. Old urchin. Don't you think this joke is too much? I am going to talk to Yao Zheng. Moving his feet he dashed into the forest, but the pathways were confusing. He did not know which way Huang Yaoshi went. As for the deaf and mute servants, as soon as their master gone, they scampered away following him. Hong Shigong had no one to lead him the way, so he was compelled to come back. But suddenly he remembered that Aoyang Ke had the map of the Peach Blossom Island in details. Aoyang Shanzi, can I borrow the Peach Blossom Island map, please? He asked urgently. Aoyang Ke shook his head. Without Uncle Huang's permission, little nephew does not dare to let other people see it. Uncle Hong, please don't blame me. Hang. Hong Shigong snorted. He said in his heart, I am really stupid. How can I borrow the map from this kid? He earnestly wishes for the old heretic Huang to hate my dumb disciple. While he was still staring at the forest, suddenly he saw some white shadows coming out. Turned out they were Aoyang Feng's 32 white-clothed dancing girls. As they came close to Aoyang Feng, they bent their knees and one of them said, Master Huang told us to go back with Master. Aoyang Feng did not even look their way. He simply waved his hand telling them to board the boat. Toward Hong Shigong and Zubatong he said, I am afraid Yao Zhang did put some booby traps on board. Don't you two gentlemen worry. Little brother will follow closely on my boat. In case of emergency we can lend you a hand. Zubatong angrily said, Who wants your charity? I want to see what kind of gadgets the old heretic Huang put on his boat. If you follow along, the danger won't come. Where's the fun part then? If you mess with me, the old urchin will drench you with urine one more time. Aoyang Feng laughed. Very well. In that case, until we meet again. He cupped his fists and took his nephew boarding his own boat. Go Jing was still staring blankly at where Huang Rong disappeared, lost in his thought. Zubatong laughed. Brother, let us board the boat. I wonder if this ill-fated boat will swallow us 3 people alive. His left hand took Hong Shigong's arm and his right hand pulled Go Jing along. Together they board a new boat. The boat came with about 7, 8 sailors waiting to serve them. They were all mute. Zubatong laughed. One day the old heretic Huang will be very angry that he cut his precious daughter's tongue. Only then will I admire him to have guts. Listening to this, Go Jing could not help but shiver. Zubatong saw him and laughed heartily. Are you scared? He asked. Then made a hand signal to the sailor to start sailing. The sailors hoisted the anchor and raised the sail. Under the southern wind they headed north. Come, Hong Shigong said, let us take a look of this boat and see what is so strange about it. 3 men walked the boat from stern to bow, from the deck to the bottom of the hold. The boat was painted in bright and clear paint. The hold contained the supply of foods and drinks, water, white rice, wine, meat and vegetables in abundance. Nothing was out of ordinary. The old heretic Huang deceived us. Zubatong hatefully said, where's the strange thing on this boat he was talking about? He is such a liar. Hong Shigong, however, was still in doubt. He leaped to the mast and with his strength tried to rock the mast and the sail, but again, he found nothing out of ordinary. He lifted up his eyes looking at a distance. He saw seagulls flying, the billows rolled and the horizon where the sea met the sky. The boat's 3 sails were fully raised. They were heading north. He spread his collar and enjoyed the invigorating wind. Turning his head he saw Aoyang Feng's boat following them approximately 2 lis, about 1 kilometer behind. Hong Shigong leaped down the mast, made a hand signal to the sailor, told him to change course to the northwest. A moment later he looked again and saw that Wang Feng's boat had also changed its direction to the northwest. What does he follow us for? Hong Shigong muttered under his breath. Can he really have good intentions? The old venom shows the kindness of heart. The sun may have to come out from the west. He was afraid if Zubatong knew he would throw a fit of temper. He didn't say anything, but signaling the sailor to change course to the east. The boat made an abrupt turn that the sail was almost touching the water and they slowed down. Approximately the time needed to drink a cup of tea later, Wang Feng's boat was also changing its direction to the east. If you want to settle our score on the sea, that's all right with me, Hong Shigong thought. He left the deck to enter the cabin only to see Go Jing look depressed. He was quiet, lost in thought. Hong Shigong said, "To her disciple, let me teach you how a beggar begs for rice. If the master of the house did not give you anything, you hang around his door for 3 days and 3 nights, see if he still didn't want to give you anything." Zubatong laughed. What if the master of the house owns a vicious dog? What if he told the dog to bite you because you don't want to go? What would you do? He asked. Hong Shigong laughed. That case he is a heartless rich man. If you come again at night and steal his belonging, you are not violating the heaven's law. Zubatong turned to Go Jing. Brother, do you understand your master's speech? He taught you to be persistent in front of your father-in-law. If he still won't give his daughter to you and beat you for no reason, then you can steal her at night, he said. Only if you really have to steal the treasure, you don't have to do it yourself. All you need to do is just call out, "Treasure, come." And she herself will come out and follow you. Listening to him, Go Jing was unable to restrain a smile. He saw Zubatong pacing up and down the cabin, could not stay still even for a moment. Suddenly a thought came into his mind. "Big brother, do you have any destination to go?" he asked. "I don't have any," replied Zubatong. "I will go where my heart tells me to. I have stayed on the Peach Blossom Island for too long, I felt cooped up." "I have a favor I'd like to ask Big Brother," Go Jing said.